I'm sure you all have heard the saying, "And two shall become one in holy matrimony." And then you look at modern times, and you see a lot of relationships failing, a lot of divorces happening. Like 70 to 80% of the divorces are initiated by women, and men again, the point of all this toxic masculinity and things like that starting to take place, and men just say, "To hell with it," and you've gone your own way. MGTOW. Um, for a few MGTOW, they've completely gone their own way. They're no longer interested in women. They're just there taking up space, basically. Um, and then there are others who have involuntarily gone their own way. So a lot of times, those type of MGTOW somewhat disgruntled about life. Still have that emptiness inside that can't be filled, unless they start getting some self help and therapy and things like that, building themselves up. And if you're that person, make sure you build yourself up, get the therapy that you need, and the tools that you need, the psychological tools that you need, and just you know move forward. And then there are a lot of you guys out there who are building yourself up and doing all that stuff, and you're ready to get back in the game. You haven't totally abandoned the idea of being in a relationship. And for those of you who have not totally abandoned the relationship, and will is currently or actively or will actively start in the future pursuing relationships, should one present itself to you, um, then you really need to consider what it means, "and two shall become one." um, because it's rooted in spirituality. If you take spirituality as a whole, um, you have God and you got us, right? God is a big, let's say, a big consciousness, and we are small consciousness. According to ancient knowledge, uh, consciousness is an how do you put it? It's a sign, it's a symbol, or it's a proof that the soul exists, that you exist. Right? Consciousness is. Um, so a lot of times, like even so a lot of times you see in spiritual settings like gurus and yogis and even Jesus said, "Me and the Father are one." Things like that. Me and God are one. Um, you know, are they're separate, but are they one? Well, you have to look at ancient Sanskrit to get the answer to something like that, which will help men in MGTOW that's looking to jump back into the relationship game understand what it really means when two shall become one. Now I'll read something. It says, "The consciousness of the individual soul becomes one with the supreme consciousness when there is complete synthesis between the two." Okay? So that means that even though you're separate, you and the woman separate consciousness, right? You synthesize as one. You're still two individual beings, but you have to get to a place where there's complete synthesis for the relationship to be successful. Um, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, both by the man and by the woman. And of course, there's some roles that each person have to play, and each person have to utilize their feminine and masculine energy. Men utilize their masculine energy, women utilize their feminine energy, and eventually they phase together, and that's how two become one. Um, in that sense, and that's how you need to look at relationships. Relationships fail because most of the times there's no phasing of energies, and because there's no phasing of energy, either from just incompatibility, uh, not, it's a shared incompatibility. It just doesn't work. You're forcing two things to work together that can't. Um, Lack of work from either party to actually make things work in sync, right? So the other aspect of that you have to understand, because you're two individual people, right? Individual souls. This is what the text says. The Supreme Lord expands himself in two ways: by personal expansions, which means he's still connected, and then by separate expansions of minute expansions, but it's separated. It's not attached to him energy wise, and that's us. We are little gods that separated became we are separated expansions of God, so there's no link between us and God. And because there's no link between us and God, how can there be links between me or you and another woman? There is no link. But the yogis and gurus say as long as you come in sync, or there's synthesis, right? Even though you're separate, it's still considered one. So those of you in MGTOW, you're looking at relationships, you know, you maybe not be actively seeking one out, but you don't mind getting into one. When you do get into one, um, really look at the energies and consider um, the synchronicity of things. How do we synthesize two people phasing together as one and staying in phase? That is like the underlying spiritual aspect that we as human beings ignore, and then we jump straight to the blame game, and then there's division, and then there's disgruntled, then there's wars, and then there's hatred, and then and it's a never-ending cycle that spirals downwards, where um, a ton of misery comes from. So if you have any questions, ask it in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe. You all have a good day. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Bye.